Welcome to episode 307 of Destination Linux. Destination Linux is a video podcast from the Tux Digital network. And if you're new to the show, this is a podcast that is perfect for all experience levels. Whether you're brand new to open source or a guru of sudo, this is the podcast for you. My name is Michael.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this week's episode of Destination Linux, we're going to be discussing open source projects that we are going to be taking on in 2023. Then we'll discuss Budgie and Sway getting official for Fedora and so much more. We also have our tips, tricks, and software picks. All of this and much more coming up right now on Destination Linux.
So this week's community feedback comes from Easy Ice. I wonder if that's his real name, Easy Ice, or their real name, Easy Ice. Maybe.
I'm going with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you want to send in your own feedback, you can go to tuxdigital.com/contact, get in touch, and send us an email or join our forum. We're also on Discord. So if you want to hang out and game with the community, chat about Linux, go to tuxdigital.com/discord to get started there. Easy Ice goes on to say, I've been wanting to write you for a while now. I'm new to Linux and have started listening to your podcast, Destination Linux. I just want to say thank you for the time and effort that you've put in. I came to Linux for security and freedom reasons. I'm in no way a maximalist. I believe in using the tool that best suits you at the given moment. In that regard, you are the only podcast out there that makes the Linux ecosystem bearable because you do not discriminate against people like me that want to use Linux but culturally do not fit in the Linux ecosystem. You are kind, welcoming, and wish others would see the real added value you guys have and be more like you. All the best, and God bless Easy Ice, a friend for life. Definitely a friend for life.
Thank you. Love you, Easy Ice.
That is fantastic feedback. Thank you so much for that. Also, I feel like it wasn't mean enough towards Ryan, so there's a little.
Wait,
it could be improved a little bit.
We're enjoying this moment, Michael. We were having this moment.
Well, I'm saying like our previous messages, and we always expected it to be a little bit mean to Ryan, and this one wasn't at all. So I was just kind of like it just threw me for a little bit, you know.
Being that I select the feedback that goes into the notes, being mean to Michael is a sure way you'll get into a show. No, but really, Easy Eyes, thank you for taking the time to send this. It really has been a goal that we set, that we all three talked about, that we wanted to make this a podcast that was welcome to everybody, whether you use Linux part-time, whether you're wanting to learn about Linux, whether you're a full-time diehard, that this is a show you could listen to and get value from it. And while we always try to stick to open source options, they're not the only options out there. Sometimes the best tool for the job happens to be something that is closed source, and sometimes it's in another operating system. It's not our favorite thing to talk about, but it's just a reality of it. You got to use the right tools for the right job. And I love that we have people like you out there, because I was just saw in the news today, I have a news feed and it pulls in some of the Reddit stuff from Linux. And somebody was talking about, I love Linux, but the community is too toxic towards it. And kind of too diehard was kind of their message, that people just go into such an extreme with it. I think a lot of that's passion, and a lot of that comes from the fact, and this is just me guessing as somebody who's newer than everybody else into Linux, that the Linux before, you had to really battle the argument that Linux was a better choice than Windows or Mac OS or everything else, with all the driver issues and everything you had to deal with gaming or even video editing. You had to constantly kind of be in a protective combat mode with Linux. Whereas today, it's kind of just taken itself off by storm, and there's no need to be so protective over it anymore or be so diehard with it, because it's really something that's just ultra popular at this moment. I mean, when I walk around with my Linux shirts, I have people stop me and like, yeah, Linux. That never happened like 5 years ago when I started in the Linux world. So
that's true.
But I love that we have people like you in the audience. I hope we get a bunch more people like you. So tell your friends Easy Ice, because if they're friends with you, they're like you. So we want more of them.
And they're probably in the ice tray.
Yeah, exactly. And cool name, by the way. You got to let us know the history of how your parents named you Easy Ice. So
yes, absolutely. Because it also makes me think like maybe it's just a pseudonym for water, because ice is usually hard.
It is Easy Ice. Yeah.
Yeah. Like and Easy Ice, thank you for, so much for your kind words. And we love, the casual Linux users as well. So you don't have to be a diehard. And, like Ryan was saying, so many people are, hearing about Linux on the internet, in the news, and they just want to try it out, whether they've been used to, Windows or Mac OS. And we need to welcome everyone. That's that's what we're trying to do, is welcome everyone.
I do want to say that one of my favorite sayings is leave every person that you've met better off for having known you. And if you kind of go back through the history of this show, I don't think we were always had this as a goal to be as welcoming and things. And Jill has made us all better for having known her. And I think a lot of her influence is why this show has gotten to the point that it has. So huge thank you to you, Jill.
Absolutely.
For being on this show and making us better people. Well, Michael, at least I was.
Oh,
I think Jill added that element that we definitely needed to,
100%.
because especially with the fact of, being more open to people and making it show that this podcast is about being welcoming, then who better to have on the show than Jill, right?
Yep.
oh, you make me
100%.
blush.
You know what else makes us better people, or you're better off for having known them? BitWarden. You're better off for having known BitWarden. And this episode is brought to you by the amazing people over at BitWarden. Get started right now with your free account at bitwarden.com/tux. Listen, there's a lot of stuff in the news right now about other password managers that were claiming things that weren't true. And this is why we talk about the importance of open source, because you can go and verify and see, is the encryption at the levels that you want it to be? Are third-party auditors coming in on a regular basis and actually looking through the code? And is the company making those changes? That's the kind of transparency that you get with a company like BitWarden, and why we've been recommending them for so long. A password manager is software that should allow you to have peace of mind. These other ones, not so much. BitWarden, I have that peace of mind. This is the software that I use to know my online accounts are safe and secure, and they provide you the tools to store all your passwords in a secure vault, auto-generate those passwords and usernames, and even automatically fill that in for you, which just makes it so much easier when you're setting up new computers, PCs. Speaking of that, you can have it on everything. You can have it on your mobile device. You can have it in your terminal if you want. Apps in Linux, Mac, Windows, whatever you want, you can have BitWarden there for you. BitWarden seals and encrypts your private data. And this is the important part, with end-to-end encryption before it ever leaves your device. So you know you're the only person with access to your data. You can also go for their premium account, which is just like $10 per year. $10 per year. That's the way inflation is. That's less than a single value meal practically. $10 per year, and you get a gigabyte of encrypted file storage, 2-step login with YubiKey, U2F Duo, Vault Health Reports, BitWarden Authenticator, priority customer support, and so much more. I mean it. Go right now. You need to go right now to bitwarden.com/tux. That's TUX. And use this as your password manager. We had someone, Michael, recently say, well, it's too much work, and I've been with this other one so long. And then like 80 breaches have happened in the last 3 weeks. I'm like, I bet they wish they would have gone ahead and done the work to switch over. But BitWarden also has tools for that to help you migrate your accounts over. So thanks to BitWarden for sponsoring this episode of Destination Linux.
Yeah.
So it's a new year, Michael. We have all kinds of hopes and dreams.
Yes, we do.
Yo,
I mean, I have a couple.
couple hopes and dreams. Michael, is one of your hopes and dreams by chance not to fall and hit your lip on the countertop?
That's my New Year resolution. I've already failed it.
Good.
I've already failed it.
For those who don't know, Michael, before the show fell, it was a horrible situation. I felt terrible. I immediately called him.
He immediately sent me a GIF laughing. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that was it. But the key is this year, we're going to have an amazing year that's going to be better than the prior years that we've had. That's what I keep hoping.
So far, anyways. It's not working out for me.
No, it hasn't happened yet. But 2023 is going to be amazing, people. I'm going to put it out there in the universe. So one of the things I want to talk about is all the projects that we have planned for this amazing year. Like, what are some of the Linux and open source projects that we want to get into around our homes and get involved in it and share with you guys in the community as well, our progress on those. I'm also going to set up a discourse thread. So I would love for you all to go to our discourse and share some of the cool projects that you want to get involved in. We have so many in just our creators, like projects that Wendy does with the robotics and AI and things. We talk about Hardware Addicts, the things that Nathan does on Linux Out Loud. Just amazing projects from around the crew. But I want to hear about all the cool projects you guys are doing as well. And also give us feedback when we're talking about some of these projects we want to do. I would rather you come in and be like, Ryan, don't do that. I've spent a million years trying to figure that out. And then I found this one software application allows me to do it in 10 seconds or something like that. Like, help us avoid the school of hard knocks on this. Even though we're experienced, amazing minds, we don't know everything.
Amazing minds.
Amazing minds. Some people say. One person said. I said it to
at
myself
least you
in the mirror. Yeah. All right. So this is the first project I want to talk about is just, it's a major kind of annoyance thing for me that I've been dealing with for several years now. Well, since my kids were born. And that is, I have terabytes practically. Well, it's probably not full terabytes, but close to terabytes of photos of my kids. Most of it, my wife takes pictures of everything they do. Like, everything they do is amazing. I have a couple pictures of the big moments of their life, but she has everything. You know, they took their 693rd step, or they took their 800th sip of soda. All of that stuff I've got pictures for. She snaps a bajillion pictures. The point is that I, through phone swaps and upgrades and changing computers and everything else, I have what I would call a disorganized disaster of backups for all of this sitting on a Synology NAS. And I have folders that are basically just like document folders from computers that I've just pulled over there with no organization of the photos. I have phones, when you get in my network range, automatically upload photos to my Synology NAS, and they just go wherever, because sometimes I set it up to go to this folder and sometimes another folder. The point is, lots of pictures, complete random mess. I need to somehow figure out a way to get all of this stuff organized. So I have some ideas, because one of the things in Linux that we have a lot of, Wendy would know more than all of us, of course, on, is kind of photo management software. And I was doing some research on this to kind of help figure out, through metadata tagging and other things, how to create a system to organize all of these photos. Not just what I have, but also all the new stuff coming in as well. And Digicam actually there's an ability I saw in one of these threads talking about getting Digicam installed on the Synology NAS, basically through the CLI of the Synology, and using that to kind of go in and start organizing all the photos that are sitting there in that Synology NAS. So
Great
that's
idea.
one way I'm thinking about doing it, but I know I'm not the only one with this problem that has endless digital photos that you can't lose. They're precious memories and things, but you got to figure out how to organize them.
I do have one option for you.
What's that?
Go into your folder of your NAS and then manually categorize everything. It'd only take you about 7 months.
Yeah.
So you could do that. I mean, it's
kind
at
of
least
funny
it's
you
an
say
option.
that. I have tried doing that at times where I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit here for a few hours, and I get through like a gig or two of photos, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'll come back to it the next day. And then
It's overwhelming.
And then a year later,
Completely
you put on your goals to do again.
I mean, I think I need a solution for dealing with all the new photos. That's kind of the first.
I do
thing
have
could
a
do
solution
easily.
for that, but I don't have it in terms of like the NAS being pulled automatically to it. But if you looked into Rapid Photo Downloader, that it has, like, when it does the download to the drive, it has an automatic labeling and categorization feature.
Oh, nice.
So it could put it in certain folders. It could also give it a certain file name and be consistent over, base it on days or who's in the photo and things like that. So that is an option, but I don't know how it would work with a NAS implementation. So the only way I've ever used it is when Wendy told us about it on Hardware Addicts, and it allows you to connect your camera to your computer and pull directly from the camera. But if you're doing it from your phone and doing it through like a Wi-Fi upload, I don't know how it would work there, but it might be worth something looking at.
Yeah, Rapid Photo Downloader. So I'll check that out and see what we can do. And I think a lot of it has to do with metadata as well, like being able to embed good metadata into these photos, which is not like an option you typically get when you're just randomly have a system that just moves like rsync or whatever photos over. I'm sure you could create an rsync script that kind of does it, but that seems to require some intelligence or some AI behind the scenes running to be able to detect, hey, this is a face of a kid, let's put it in a kids folder. This is a face of an adult, let's put it there. So when you look at things like Google Photos and stuff like that, not that I'm recommending it, but they deploy that AI to organize your stuff. And I kind of would love something like that I could do with my photos, where it could automatically start moving and sorting them. So
That would be cool.
the community, let me know what options I might have there, but that's definitely something I want to take on this year. Michael, what about you?
Well, first of all, I do want to say that Digicam is a great piece of software that's made by the KD team. I just wanted to point that out.
You had to mention the KD part of that?
Yeah, it kind of did. I kind of wanted to piggyback on your project because I want to do that too. I have so much, but most of it's more in video form, not really in the audio or the photo form. I have tons of video from this show and other shows that we do and all the videos that I make. I have so much that I basically run out of storage every single week to the point where we had to put it on the checklist to remind me to make sure I have space on my drive.
Yeah.
So that's the problem I have to deal with. So it's similar, but it's a lot more data to deal with because it's in video form. And I don't think that there even is like a video management software like that. But if there is, please let me know in the comments because that would be awesome. The other thing I wanted to do is like this is my main goal. That's actually from me and not just copying Ryan. I want to implement a new policy for upgrading my machines. And for those who are not familiar, my process of upgrading my machines or my policy for it is to not.
Yeah.
But he sits here on the show and tells everybody, hey, you need to upgrade. He knows the importance of it. But he's so afraid something will break before the show, which is a legitimate concern.
Absolutely.
That you don't upgrade all the time because you need to keep things super, super stable because there's so much complexity to the show. But what I don't understand, Michael, is that I'll distro hop an hour before the show. I'll change desktop environments.
And that worked out so
20
well
minutes
last
before
week.
the show. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well.
Not the best policy.
It worked
either.
perfectly.
I'm on the exact opposite side of you.
You are.
You are.
It's kind of funny because I upgrade I change my system very rarely, but I also upgrade not so often. And Ryan changes his system. Like sometimes I'll just say, "What are you on now?" And it's a whole different other distro.
I have a problem. Yeah, it's an issue.
Well, it's funny because I do.
Hoppers Anonymous.
Yes.
I do have a policy of not wanting to upgrade my system just for make sure everything's stable for the recording. And then I also do so many recordings per week that it's the excuse that just never stops.
Being an excuse.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to implement a new policy of upgrading at least once a month. Or maybe soon, maybe more often than that, but at least once a month.
I think that's good. Once a month
reasonable.
is decent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there's a major security flaw that gets discovered, and then you may have to break your 1 month thing. But other than that, it's better than the 1 year or 2 years or 4 years that you're on now. So we'll take it.
It's not.
Michael.
It is not 2 years or even 1 year. It might be 1 year.
Might be 1 year. Okay.
Closer to 8 months.
I've updated packages, specific packages that wouldn't work unless I updated them, and I've updated flat packs.
I think you can set up, we talked about this, you can set up automation scripts that will automatically do the upgrades for you and reboot your machine. I think to force you this not to become just a habit, but something you actually accomplish. That you set a date, not on a Sunday, in which the updates automatically apply once a month. And it reboots your computer and you just, deal with it from there.
I think it's going to be more often than not, the machine will just start updating and then reboot itself and remind me of the Windows problem than anything else.
Because you have other drives that you have other distros on. So you could always have another drive that's kind of not updated in case one of the updates breaks and things like that. So
I mean, I do have a drive for that, but this is my main drive. And it shouldn't have the same policy. So I'm going to be implementing it on the main drive, but I will have a secondary, backup just in case.
Nice.
Unlike Ryan, who will never have a backup, apparently.
No, just run with it.
I actually do the same. I always have. I've got actually 4 NVMe drives in this computer, and I've got different distros on each of them for the different networks I podcast on because I have different needs for different networks. And for the other one I'm on, I've got to have a low latency kernel and jack and all that good stuff. So I keep that separate from my one here on Destination Linux.
It's a smart move. I mean, it's what's interesting is with the type of work that we're doing here, anything could mess up from OBS. A change could mess up all the scenes.
Yeah.
that Michael set up all the way through audio
Michael.
issues is a big one, of course, or video issues or camera interfaces. Like anything that's slightly changed could really mess up our ability to do the show. Like it.
See,
now
you're just saying it for me. You're just
This show, you see it and you go, my gosh, it's professional. Well, maybe you don't.
Yeah. Oh,
But
it is professional to a point.
It is on a very fragile surface of ice that can easily be fractured with just the littlest change. So
You know the whole that XKCD where it talks about like all this giant like monstrosity of servers and companies and stuff depending on this one little tiny thing that's barely holding everything up. Yeah. I feel like that's updating for us.
exactly.
Oh, Michael, but I hear you. I am right now on Ubuntu LTS for that reason, because I know that it works. My audio is recording, my camera works beautiful, and you have so much other to deal with the OBS scenes and everything. So I completely...
Plus, maintaining Windows and all that stuff.
That's you, buddy.
Jill, tell us about your project for this year.
Oh, boy. So my project is Scale 20X Planning, the Southern California Linux Expo coming up the beginning of March. Yep. And it's our planning for Destination Linux and the Tux Digital Network with Michael and Ryan. And honestly, I usually spend 3 or 4 months doing this, sometimes up to a year ahead of time. I've actually started doing some things a year ahead of time from the last, actually from the previous scale, preparing for the next scale.
I have a new item for me, Michael. I want to
preparing
be more organized like Jill. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the whole exact same thing. She's talking about preparing a year in advance, and like I barely do 3 days sometimes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes too. That's also true.
For instance, I'm setting up running the Linux Chicks of Los Angeles booth again at Scale 20X, and I've already started collecting things we need for our projects and what we're going to be doing at the booth. So.
Yeah. Now, you're going to make sure that our booth is a little more exciting than the other booth, right?
Yeah.
Just slightly.
See, that's why we need to start planning now.
By planning, we're allowing you, we want to give you the full authority to plan for us.
We're letting you just have all the creativity you want to have with this.
Okay.
We're the kind of bosses we are.
We could do a live show at our booth. There we go.
Yes, that would be amazing. I like how Jill's one, like both of ours are kind of selfish, Michael, and Jill's is like, I'm giving back to the community through convention, and that's what I want to help move on. I just kind of noticed that. That's real.
I think I might need to change my next one.
Yeah. Aww. Mine's about giving back to helping people.
Oh, yes, well, you're helping your wife, Ryan, in your first goal.
Thank you, Jill. You're right.
There you go.
Yeah.
And also, once we have the information for the photo management, which I assume a lot of people will want, we'll put it in the show notes. And there you go.
Help the world. We'll
exactly.
save the world of the photo disaster. You're right.
And my other goal is to getting to more Linux and open source events and conventions. Again, since the pandemic, I've done Scale every time we've had Scale, but since the pandemic, most of the Linux events and meetups haven't been going on, and now they're starting to open up. So I'm looking forward to at least going to a new event, open source event once a month. And I used to do that for years.
Oh, they're so much fun. And, I had an event that I used to hold here. Michael attended it a couple times.
Yeah, you had meetups.
Linux Ninja would help us set it up in the community. We were able to get space from him. It was really nice. It was very fun. Things kind of fell apart, and then the pandemic happened. So now we're trying to, I'm in that point now where I'm thinking like it would be fun to get back with people again. Of course, I'm about to move, so probably not going to happen in this area, but I do miss those kind of small events. And when Michael would come down, it was kind of a fun thing to do too, to take him there and be like, look, it's Michael. And people would be like, oh, look, it's Michael. Well, they'd look up and go, look, it's Michael, because he's really tall. But that's kind of
you guys are awesome that you had your own lugs. I have the Linux Chicks Los Angeles lug. Hey, there's something we all have in common. We've had lugs.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about bringing back my lug as well in my area.
Yeah. Nice. Well, for those new Linux users to Destination Linux, a lug is actually a short term for Linux User Group.
I wish you were around, Jill, when I was learning Linux before I ever joined a podcast. I used to listen to these podcasts, and it just sounded like when they talk about Linux, another language.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, like, there would be pieces. If you ever saw 13th Warrior, there's this moment where he's sitting with the other barbarians, and they're speaking another language, and every once in a while, he catches a word he understands. That was me listening to Linux podcasts for a long time. Like, I felt like I was surrounded by people who are speaking a different language. But the next thing that I want to do, this kind of actually fits with the community feedback that we got in a way. I've been playing a lot with 4K video. Michael's like, why? And it's a good point. Why? I don't know. But I just want to. Yeah.
But it is a lot of effort, and it's also a lot of rendering time. And
a lot of rendering, a lot of space.
Most people don't watch it in 4K anyway on YouTube and stuff. So.
But that doesn't stop me, because I'm a shoot from the hip kind of person. And I've been playing a lot with DaVinci Resolve. And I love Kdenlive. We talked about that in a prior show just recently about how amazing it is and how far it's come along. But there's just some things in DaVinci that you're not going to get anywhere else. Things in DaVinci, frankly, you're not going to get in Adobe or other stuff. And technically it works in Linux, but not really works in Linux.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to describe it. Like,
it works with a specific set of configuration options. Like you have a particular distro that it'll work, but you also have to have a specific hardware to make it work. And if you don't have the right combination, it might work, but you're really just rolling the dice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually had a lot of frustration with this in the Linux community, because a lot of people would do videos on Linux and be like, okay, let's install DaVinci Resolve. It wouldn't work in their video, and they were new people to Linux and be like, oh, see, this is why I can't use Linux. But a lot of it has to do with DaVinci, even in their notes, specify, I think, CentOS. Back in the day, it was.
They only support Red Hat's the Red Hat family, and CentOS was the easiest one to recommend in that case. Yeah. But you can now do it for any of the Red Hat family. There's also some ways to make it work on Ubuntu, and there's like a project made for that purpose. Mm-hmm. And there are ways to do it, but the NVIDIA part is the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so DaVinci basically has this thing where if you have an NVIDIA card, then all of the GPU acceleration and stuff works flawlessly. Mm-hmm. If you have an AMD card, good luck on getting that stuff to work really well. So this is kind of one of the, I'm going to put it out there, I'm going to transition to NVIDIA, even though I really don't want to. We got to talk about this in Hardware Addicts, but what's happening with GPUs right now, both AMD and NVIDIA, is just horrific with this new lineup. But I'm going to transition to NVIDIA, probably one of their older models, not the latest one, so I don't have power cables being blown out and things. But I'm going to do that, and then I'm also probably going to move away from my Synology and just get a 4-bay storage solution accessible through a VPN that I set up, or tunneling, for my files to stay on. And then I want to set it up so that my Sony camera, which I record the 4K footage on, especially the B-roll and also the video on me here, it will automatically send that video over to one of my main machines, and I use it as a render farm, basically, for all my computers. So I'll do the editing on any of my machines and send it to the render farm or main machine, my mini beast, to render it out, and then not have all that work being taxed onto a laptop. So Sony uses a tool called Play Memories to create its connection to basically set up on your network and send that data over your network to a computer. As my understanding in doing some research, that Play Memories essentially just kind of captures the initial IP address and some additional information so that it has that connection. And that's kind of all it does, but it's this barrier to being able to make that connection happen. So I've seen some people have actually figured out ways to get Play Memories to work with Linux, either by kind of a little bit of hackery in the background to send that data that the camera needs through an app or through the CLI. And there's some people who have done other solutions. So I'm going to play with those, see which one works. But the idea is basically create a render farm. I can edit on any machine and then have a farm, my main machine, render that stuff out.
That would be great.
And have all my videos in 4K for apparently, according to Michael, no reason at all other than my own giggles.
It's nice. It'll be future proof. So there you go. Yeah. In the future, when 4K is prominent on YouTube, then it will matter. Right now, it's not, but it's okay. I respect your insistence on doing it.
Yeah. So
Aw.
I'm going to do this. Jill, you have a
Yeah.
lot of experience with
Oh,
render
yeah.
farms and things. Now, DaVinci has this built in. They actually have
With
a tool
Cloud. Yeah.
that allows you to send your files into a render farm in the cloud. And I think
Yeah.
they have some local, I haven't played with it, but I thought they had some local setup stuff you could do too. This will be fun to play with and learn.
Yeah, traditionally, when I've always needed to use a render farm, like here at the house for my animation projects and rendering out videos, is that you would render, maybe like a minute clip on one machine and a minute clip on another, and that's particular with both video editing software and animation software. So that's one way to do it if you have a lot of machines, but they have to be kind of high-powered machines
Yeah.
for that to work properly. Yeah.
That's a good point. I guess what I'm doing technically isn't a render farm. It's sending my work to a rendering machine and rendering it out. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's a farm or
Like
not.
what they kind of call rendering the cloud now.
Yeah. Okay. But maybe I'll get multiple
But it's
mini
similar.
beasts if Michael approves the purchase order, and then I can have a bunch I can have a real render farm for 8K and 16K.
That's a great no.
No. Oh,
No.
all right. We'll
We're
flip
not-
a coin on it.
Yeah.
All right, Michael.
You can use your singular barn
I've done
for
16K
instead of your farm.
and it's not fun. I had to do it in the 90s.
Oh,
That sounds terrible.
With hundreds of external SCSI hard drives and SyQuest drives. Oh,
I feel like that could be an episode in itself.
Yeah.
Jill telling the story of how she rendered 16K in the 90s. They didn't even
Yeah.
knew what 16K was back then.
They
That's
had
shocking
nothing
to
to
me.
play it at all.
Yeah.
I don't think anything could play it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was for a project I was doing for big projections on skyscrapers.
Oh wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about that. We might have to do a whole episode on that alone. Michael, what's another thing you want to get done this year?
Okay, so I've decided to start learning. I started it last year towards the end of the year, but I started learning about more cloud related things. So things like Kubernetes, Ansible, Vagrant, DRBD, LinStore, and a lot more stuff. So I've been researching all of these types of things because I just wanted to, in this show, we kind of focus more on the desktop side and the overall community side and just the average user side. And I wanted to add an extra element to like more server things and enterprise things just to add an extra value to the show. So I started learning more about the cloud. And I have to say, this is super complicated stuff. Like,
Yeah.
as someone who's been in the Linux world for 20 years, I have a lot of experience, and it still makes me go, oh, this is a lot.
What's interesting is I started doing the same thing, not as quite as complex projects as you, but when I'm doing this and I have a specific project in mind, I tend to be able
That's
to
the
get
best way.
through it. Whereas if I go in there and just take a course on Docker and Kubernetes and I'm just like listening to it, I start to like fade off and want to fall asleep. And I have to have a project to have my hands on. So, but I agree with you. Learning Docker, learning Kubernetes, Ansible, all of these things are just amazing pieces to invest your time in, not only personally, but for careers and stuff. A lot of people wanting to get into Linux as their career. You're learning these tools. It's definitely something that's going to be valuable to you in the future. I think it's awesome. I can't wait for you to bring some of that knowledge back to us, that backup
Yeah.
knowledge.
We're so proud,
That's the
Michael.
goal. Thank you, Jim.
Well, I'm not really proud of it.
Thank you,
He
Brian.
hasn't taught
Thank
us
you very much
anything
for your
yet. I
proudness.
mean, it's like it's a little ahead of the game, Jill. He's getting endorphins for no reason because he hasn't taught us anything yet. So
It's gonna happen. Don't worry.
gonna
It will happen.
yeah. Okay, Jill, give us your final project you want to work on this year.
Yeah, so I want to work on preparations for my vintage computer
Yeah.
hardware museum and studio being built in my backyard.
It's very
Nice.
smart.
It's a slow process, but I am working on it and trying to organize. And we got to get the contractors over. It's just it's been a lot of work, and part of that is I want to show off my hardware museum to people, and I can't right now because it's stored in the garage.
Yeah.
I have some pieces in here, of course, in my my studio, but I want a place where I can show that off and actually have a little museum for when someday when Michael and Ryan come to my house, I can show them my museum.
You're going to let us come over there and turn on all the computers?
Yeah.
We'll be like little kids just flipping switches everywhere and see what they do. It'd be so much fun. I love that you're spending time in the hardware
I'll just be in
museum.
awe the whole time.
The reason why I said it's really smart for you to do this, Jill, is as ChatGPT grows and takes over the world and Skynet becomes our new overlords and they come to destroy humankind, but they see you have a museum dedicated to computers and electronics, they'll probably spare you. Yes, they save Jill.
Yeah.
It's very smart. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is something I actually have to kind of do because I am working from home, both with my teaching and with podcasting here on Destination Linux. And I want to, or we're working on, me and my hubby are working on remodeling the house. And
Very
I have
nice.
to have somewhere to work so we can remodel the house. And
I love it.
difficult. So I gotta make a studio.
Well, very cool. Well, there you have it. Those are the projects that are at top of mind. There will be many projects throughout the year we'll talk about. Those are the ones on the top of our mind at the beginning of this year. And if you have some tips and tricks and some of the things we talked about, if you've gone through the pain of setting up your own museum, maybe learning Kubernetes or doing storage with photo management, let us know in the discourse or shoot us an email. Give us some tips.
We talk about Tux Digital every now and then on the show, like we mentioned in the intro and also in the outro, but are you aware of just how much great content is on Tux Digital Network? We have the Pseudo Show, This Week in Linux, the DOS Geek Channel, Linux Out Loud, Hardware Addicts, GameSphere, and also the Linux Saloon, and so much more content. So go to tuxdigital.com to check out all the great content. We have podcasts, we have YouTube videos, so much more. So check it out. Make sure to go to tuxdigital.com to see the full portfolio, the catalog of the greatness, the plenty, yes, of what we have available to you. Because it's not just this show, it's not just This Week in Linux, it's all of it. And there is so much great content. And you also can join the community when you're there by going to tuxdigital.com/community and becoming part of the overall ecosystem that is Tux Digital.
When I look at this, though, I go, This Week in Linux. Why would I listen to that? Maybe I don't know what that is. That's your weekly news source, folks. And then you've got the Pseudo Show. We talked about bringing some more enterprise and cloud stuff into our show. Go to the Pseudo Show, and you're going to get a whole mega load of all of that awesomeness there on the Pseudo Show.
If you don't want to wait for our show to have that, definitely check out the Pseudo Show, because that's what it's for.
That's what it's for. You got my channel, which is kind of about privacy and technology, all kinds of different things that I'm experimenting with in YouTube. And you need to punch that subscribe button in the face when you go there. Then you go to Linux Out Loud, and you've got the whole crew there talking about all kinds of things happening in Linux, very similar to this show, but I kind of view it as like even more casual and fun. And they talk about projects they're working on. And sometimes they take things from this show and talk about them there as well. Then you've got Hardware Addicts. I mean, this is where you get to learn about NVIDIA, GPUs, CPUs, things going on in the whole computer world. Everything hardware related is there. You got GameSphere. You can watch Matt Game every week. And the Linux user group, which is a virtual lug. This is your entryway. If you're one of those people like, hey, I don't go out a whole lot, I don't know how to interact with other Linux people, what am I going to say? Practice in this Linux Saloon. Nate does an amazing job with this. Everybody's welcome. It's virtual. You don't even have to turn on your webcam. You can just kind of lurk for a while if you want. But get you used to the audiences there. We have so much on this network. What an amazing network. I'm not biased at all. Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely not. Just because we own it doesn't mean that we're biased. That's not how that works. It's just because the content is so fantastic.
It's
and you
so
mentioned,
wonderful.
you mentioned how there's a weekly news show, but it's also your weekly source for Linux GNUs.
So
That. There we go.
Speaking of Michael, there is something in the GNUs this week we're going to cover on this show.
Absolutely. So let's get into that right now. So it's official. We have some new Fedora Spins that we're excited about, especially with the new Budgie version. And we also have the Sway version for those who like i3 but don't use Wayland. And these are becoming for Fedora 38, like Ryan is pointing to himself. Yes,
i3. Yes.
So it's awesome because they have the official stamp of approval for Fedora, and this is a very big deal for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is that you know that if they're going to have an official stamp of approval, it also means that there's going to be continued work by the community in the Fedora project in order to make sure that that happens, because they can't become official spins unless there's someone who's there to commit to doing that work, which is fantastic. Because it's like, when you have some distributions have access to certain packages, but you don't know if they're actually optimized or if they're maintained very well, because they just might have just put them in there and then never touch them again. In this case, with the official spin, you do know for sure. And I also wanted to say that the Fedora Budgie team is being made by the Budgie developers, and which is really good because the Joshua Strobel, who's one of the lead developers of Budgie, is a part of the team for Fedora Budgie and is also a friend of the show. And
absolutely.
I requested that the Fedora Budgie project have a different name, maybe a code name, and he agreed to it. So it's not officially recognized this, but I just wanted to put it out there and say, if you want to, you can. It's not officially recognized this, but occasionally you might want to call it Fudgy.
Yes.
That's so cute. So cute.
I think Joshua Strobel approves, Michael.
Yeah.
He does.
Fudgy.
I requested
Yeah.
specifically for him to do it and call it Fudgy.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm probably not going to do that, but maybe as like a nickname or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I haven't played as much in Sway. It's kind of the Wayland version of i3. I've pretty much been in i3 the whole time. And as the i3 prodigy, I must say, I'm very excited about that being there.
Oh, yeah.
But Budgie is just so, i3, we can all agree in Sway, that's kind of a passion project where kind of like Vim and other things, it's going to take a minute to learn, do your configurations.
They're very cool, but you got
amazing what you could do with it, but you've got to invest some time in it.
Yeah.
Whereas Budgie is an out of the box, amazing experience. What a beautiful, beautiful desktop environment. They've done amazing things with it. And I adore Fedora, and having those two together, I think that's just brilliant. I love this news here.
Yeah, I was so happy also because Budgie is one of our favorite desktops here at Destination Linux for both laptop and desktop. I mean, I rock it on several laptops. I just love Budgie, and it works great on both for both aspect ratios and form factors. It's really great.
I also think that Budgie is a fantastic desktop environment for beginners to Linux.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So to have a Fedora version for that is a great thing because it means that Fedora could even be more beginner-friendly in that sense.
Beginner-friendly. Yeah, true, Michael.
Yeah. Now, technically, before this was an official spin, you could go and install Budgie and things in that.
Sure.
And I think Joshua was doing some work there. But to your point earlier, Michael, the key is that all your configurations and things when it's official spin are going to be there. You don't have to worry about things breaking and not working and stuff, which I've dealt with because I'm one of those people, surprise Michael, that goes and installs random desktops on their machine randomly.
Really?
So, yeah,
I've never heard of this from you.
And a lot of times, they don't work correctly in certain distros because they're not official and it creates problems and all that stuff.
And then there's issues with the audio that you have to deal with, and then the show is late for recording.
It happened
that's never
1, 2,
before,
3,
except for last
4,
week.
5 times, maybe max, that I've done that.
This
6
year.
or 7. Additionally, you got Budgie 10.7 that's coming out. So this was originally slated to be released last year, but it's coming out this year, and they wanted to take some additional time looking through the newsletter and things to put some polish on it, and that's always welcome in my book.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with Budgie, because you expect so much polish with Budgie. So that's, to me, take that extra time, and they are. So some of the cool things you can look forward to, well, the one that really caught my attention, switcheroo control.
Naturally, yeah.
Michael, switcheroo, the name.
I love the name of this.
That's a great name.
I love the name because if you add it to GPU switcheroo, it's so good. It's ridiculous, but also fantastic.
Well, I just wanted to say switcheroo really up front, but what they're doing is they're integrating switcheroo and things in there so that when you have a hybrid graphics situation, which a lot of laptops are doing that now, you'll have more handy ability to be able to switch between those and launch your application in the GPU or not. But I just had to say switcheroo.
So for the onboard / discrete GPU switch back and forth, this is what that's for.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So you don't have to run Prime now if you're running AMD and NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Right. That is really good. And I actually was supportive of this package being there just because its name is switcheroo. But now that it's actually useful, I'm glad to know
it's even
that.
double points there for being useful. You got the Budgie screenshot tool. They've got quick access to Budgie Control Center, desktop settings, new power menu with suspend, hibernate, log out, and power off in there, all the usual things that you would expect. And Budgie has an app indicator tray GNOME.
What?
Woohoo!
Yeah.
You don't need that, Ryan. Why would
Yeah.
you need an app indicator
True.
system, like our system tray? Like
Good point.
we've gone with 10 years without it on GNOME. We don't. It's proof.
I'm not bitter. I'll be
Also,
checking out
I
this.
was being sarcastic for anybody who didn't know that. That's very important. Bring it back GNOME. But it is great that they. I agree with you what you were saying about Budgie 10.7 being delayed a little bit to make sure everything is good to go. Because there's a lot of people who would make comments about, oh, this is delayed because they haven't, put in the work or whatever. There's times where the package should be delayed because you want the thing that you're getting access to be the best it possibly can be. Why would you want something that is anything less than that?
We want to do the thing that video games developers no longer do.
Oh, we're going to do early access.
Yeah.
And like green light systems. We're going to do that for our podcast as well. So we're going to take like certain pieces of our show and then early access it. And it won't be done. It'll be like weird random elements of maybe Ryan, like part of Ryan's camera will be there, but other parts will be kind of buggy and have artifacting and stuff like that.
Right.
I think this is a great idea, Ryan.
Yep. I love it. Jill, speaking of mixing and matching parts together, what is our game this week?
Speaking of things you can do on the Budgie desktop, one is playing games. Woohoo!
Yay!
So the world is actually full of marvelous and amazing creatures. But what if you had the power to create creatures of your own? What
Don't
kind
give
of
it to
crazy
Ryan.
mashups and features would you design?
Well, let me tell you, Jill, I would create a 6-foot-tall bearded creature that trips every time it tries to walk and hits its lip on a counter. That's the kind of creature I would create.
See, that would have been a funny joke if you were not wrong about my height. How dare you? I am taller than that. Thank you.
6'4"
Yes,
5-ish.
four.
Yeah, somewhere in there. That's what I would create, Jill. Go on.
Oh, okay.
Just to make it clear that this creature has to fall farther than normal.
Well, now you no longer have to wonder what crazy creatures you would like to create. Just buy yourself a copy of Creature Creator and get to work. And make that neon and green striped slug with tentacle eyes that I enjoyed creating over the week.
Ooh, that's
So you made it.
cool,
So you
Jill.
made it like a self portrait of Ryan.
Oh, nice. Can we get a picture of the creature you created by chance, Jill? We could put in the show?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
very
that'd be
impressive. It was quick and dirty.
Well,
It'll work.
yeah, it'll work.
It makes it even more fun, really.
Yeah. So, Creature Creator has over 196 very positive reviews and will let you design your favorite stool-shaped monster with weak thumbs
Oh goodness.
for Michael,
Oh no. Wow.
or a noodle-armed, bearded i3 desktop wizard like Ryan.
What's
The
with the noodle
possibilities are
There we
endless.
go.
Jeez.
Perfect.
Unbelievable.
Perfect.
I think the community should go in there and create these two creatures we described and send us pictures in the discourse forum of the creatures
Absolutely.
here. Yeah, that would
I would
be
love to
amazing.
see
Absolutely.
what they come up with.
Yeah,
Yes,
me too.
a stool-shaped
me too.
monster with weak thumbs. I mean,
Yeah.
amazing.
So this
Well, also
game-
the noodle-armed bearded i3 wizard.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Please, all our patrons and viewers go create and send those in on our discourse forum
Love it.
or email. So this game honestly is so fun and it's so full of whimsy. And, I actually had been following the progress of this game as it is inspired by EA's game Spore and its creature stage. And I love Spore. So this is, it's just nice to have a kind of a fork of Spore because there were some issues with Spore. So, and you remember how long, for those of us in gaming, how long it took Spore to develop and get going.
It was
But
announced, and then years later, it finally came
yeah,
out.
absolutely. So Creature Creator is, so well done, and it's really easy to build, paint, and play with your creatures and collect body parts along the way.
My favorite thing to do. Collect body parts. Yes. Like the Universal Soldier.
Yeah. So like I
Yeah,
had,
sure.
had my neon slug, and I found a mouth that I could put on it and build in the build tool a mouth on it. Although I didn't put a mouth on it, I just wanted a slug.
There you go. Hey, you create whatever you want, Jill. It's your imagination. Your imagination is the limit. Now, how much does an amazing game like this cost? $400? $500?
$1,000?
99 cents on Steam, Ryan. Go figure. It's awesome. And it supports our penguins out of the box. And even better, this project is actually open source and allows creators of all disciplines to contribute to the project and lets developers add creatures to their own commercial games. How wonderful is that?
Very cool. Love it.
That is awesome.
Creature Creator, go check that out. And our software spotlight this week is Michael. Michael, you're the software spotlight because it's Scum.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
The spotlight this week is Scum VM. Do you have some old?
Just so you know, everyone, we are friends. Just to make it clear.
Dear friends. I call him nearly every day, and we talk on the phone. And
yesterday I didn't answer because I knew he was going to call me Scum today.
Yes, he was still bitter, but he's fine about it now.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Also, I just didn't see the phone call. Whatever.
Yeah. Do you have some old but classic point-and-click adventure games that need to be dusted off, or you have some nostalgia for a specific game? One of mine is called Laser Squad. I spent this whole summer playing this. It's a click-and-point adventure. It's so weak now you could play it in a browser, but back then I had what I thought was a powerful computer, probably like a 386 or 486 to play it. But I absolutely loved this game, Laser Squad. It was just amazing. So games like that you want to play, that's where Scum VM comes in. So the program allows you to run a wide variety of the classical graphical point-and-click adventure games and role-playing games, provided you already have the data files, of course. And the clever part about this is that Scum VM just replaces the executable that shipped with the game, allowing you to play them on your system no matter how they were designed, which is really cool. They have a library of games it works with, over 250. It supports classics published by legendary studios, LucasArts. I mean, they've made so many great games back in the day. Sierra Online, Revolution Software, Cyan Incorporated, Westwood Studios. I'm thinking of Red Alert there with Westwood
Red
Studios.
Alert.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so many awesome titles. I mean, Blade Runner, Broken Sword, Myst, all of these things that you could check out. So Scum VM, go check it out.
Oh, Monkey Island. Yay. I love playing Monkey Island on Scum.
That stars Ryan. Yeah.
We are friends.
We are friends, people. Tip of the week this week. So it's a new year, which means it's time for some maintenance. We talk about all the things we want to get done in the new year, but one thing you have to get done is keeping your PC well maintained.
Michael.
It's time to dust out your machines and your servers. I also need to do this part, yes, much more frequently than I do. Update the software, also that's me too. Check your ports and your connections. Uninstall no longer needed software. I need to do that too. Refresh some passwords in 2FA. I do that one. See,
that's good.
There we go.
It's important.
So our tip of the week is basically spring cleaning for your computer. And actually, come to think of it, why is spring cleaning even a thing? Stay with me for this second. Spring is one of the best times of the year. You know, why waste
outside.
Yeah, why waste cleaning stuff? The beginning of the year when it's really cold, at least in our part of the world. So it makes sense to clean during that time. So we need to change it. Instead of spring cleaning, it's winter cleaning or New Year cleaning, whatever you want to call it. I know this is a side tangent, but I just wanted to
It is kind of dumb
bring it up.
to
Yeah, it
spend
is a
all
good
that
point,
time
Michael.
cleaning stuff during the spring, which is the time you should be outside. But I want to mention, like, you mentioned ports and connections, not just ports and connections on your computers, but those are important
open
to check.
ports of your firewall and stuff like that.
Open ports and firewalls and things. Because a lot of times throughout the year, you're working on projects, you open up ports to get something to work. Sometimes you're really desperate to get things to work, so you open all ports. Maybe you forget about it.
You should not do
that.
that.
I'm speaking from experience.
Don't do that.
And then you need to go back and close those. So it's a good time to go through the checklist and just make sure you got everything.
This is why Ryan distro hops, because he opens the ports and then has to fix it all.
I don't know how to close them. I'll just get a new distro.
And it's kind of funny. Initially, when I was reading, check your open ports and connections, I was thinking you need to unplug your Ethernet noodles and make sure there's no dust bunnies in the holes.
I mean, that's not.
I was
bad
actually
idea.
thinking about the ports and the cables. That's what I thought you meant by that. And now, so now both. So the ports of your computer and also your operating system ports, your network ports.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about connections and things. There's a lot of times where if you're like me and you're constantly getting new hardware, your cords aren't as managed as they should be. Let me just put it nicely like that. But when you have all these cords tangling with each other and things like that, number one, it's a fire hazard and other things. So it is a good time to mess with your ports and connections and make sure things are managed to get that cleaned up as well. But I also saw a video the other day of someone that said one of those batteries for their drill or their lawn equipment, you know, the lithium ion batteries that they plug in and you leave them on in your garage had exploded.
Oh,
and the garage looked like a bomb went off.
That's
So,
scary, yeah.
I mean, I guess this is a little outside of the show, but yeah, check all ports, connections, batteries, charging, other
everything
things.
you leave connected,
take
make sure it
batteries.
should be.
Yeah.
Check
Take
it
batteries out of devices that you don't use that often. That,
In this show,
that
we
is a
save
major
lives.
thing. Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
You know
100%.
what? You know what, Ryan? This happened to me and my husband. He had, he had a USB charger and it had fried, and we were very lucky it didn't start a fire.
Yep.
I was scared, nervous about that.
I had a similar situation. I had one plugged in the wall over here, and it was for charging a cheap piece of no brand kind of equipment I'd ordered on a whim. I don't remember what it was. It was just something nonsensical, but it was really inexpensive. And I left it charged in thinking it would have the ability to, of course, stop the charge when it was full. And I came in the morning and it was all brown and melted. The wire had melted, but it didn't catch fire. Very lucky. So definitely look at unplugging some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But Michael, awesome tip. And we also have events we talked about.
Woo-hoo.
Creative Freedom Summit is a free online event that's all about teaching and promoting open source creative tools. Topics will range from learning the ropes to discussing the value of owning your own workflow. So you can join them. Talks run through January 17th through the 29th. That's coming up here real soon. Get that on your calendar. And if you want to meet the DL crew, let's be honest, you want to meet Jill. We know. But you got to talk to us first. It's the rule. You want to come to scale. You got to talk to Michael and me. You got to get our autograph. Then you can go talk to Jill and get the autograph you want. The 20th annual Southern California Linux Expo is taking place on March 9th through the 12th at the Pasadena Convention Center in, guess what? Pasadena, California.
So convenient.
Convention Center, Pasadena. Come hang out and have the best time of your life. Your life-changing event. Nothing will be better.
You know, I'm not biased or anything, but I think it's the best Linux event of the year. Although they're all wonderful, but
It is because Jill's there, for sure. Yeah.
It does make it better, yes.
It does make it better. So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. We're here every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern live at tuxdigital.com/live. But we haven't been here on Sunday lately. And let me tell you, it's Michael's fault. Not even joking. Totally Michael's fault. But we're going to get back on a
it's
Sunday
Michael's
schedule.
fault this time.
Only
this time. We took
In the
a
last
week off because of New Year's.
yeah,
And we also took a week off in terms
You're
of
blaming
recording.
the holidays? Really, Michael?
No, it's because we were spending time with family. I'm blaming our family. That's what what it is.
Last Sunday was New Year's Day, and the Sunday before was Christmas Day.
So this episode, we're not live, but the next episode, we probably will be live.
We are planning to be live next episode, which will be the 15th.
Not confusing at all.
The 15th.
15th-ish. Come join us live on Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you don't know what that means because you're in a different time zone, we're like kindred spirits because I don't know time zones either. Go on browser and look it up. And if you want to chat after the show, join us in Discord, tuxdigital.com/Discord.
Also, you can check out the unedited versions of the show, which, especially when we're not doing the live versions, you're not able to get access to the unedited versions unless you become a patron. So you can become a patron by going to tuxdigital.com/contribute, and you get access to see whatever ridiculousness that happens during the show that I edit out because typically Ryan says something just absurd that I have to
Usually me.
Usually, yeah. Sometimes it's me, but it's rare. That's
Mostly me.
yeah, exactly. You can also join us in the patron-only post show, which happens every week when we're live after the show. And go to tuxdigital.com/contribute to become a patron and get all these perks plus so much more, because not in addition to getting perks for Destination Linux, you also get perks for This Week in Linux and a ton more. So just do that. Go to tuxdigital.com/contribute to find out all the great stuff you can get. Also, go to tuxdigital.com/store to get some great swag, to like t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, coasters, so much great stuff at tuxdigital.com.
All those Visa gift cards you got for the holidays, this is what you use them on right here. You get some awesome swag from the tuxdigital.com/store. That would make me happy.
Yeah.
If you did that.
Aww. And
Yes,
make sure
it would
to
make me
check
happy as
out
well. Do that.
And make sure to check out all our wonderful shows here on Tux Digital. We have the Pseudo Show, This Week in Linux, the DOS Geek Channel, Linux Out Loud, Hardware Addicts, Game Sphere, and our virtual Linux user group, Linux Saloon. And make sure to head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our wonderful shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
And also specifically, if your app has a rating system of 1 to 5 stars, we want you to leave a 5-star rating.
5-star.
We mentioned a rating in general, but specifically 5 stars.
If you're going to leave a 1, just don't.
Yeah, don't even bother. Yeah, don't
5, then go. Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week. Actually, see you next week.
See,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Well, planning to.
Probably.
We'll see.